I never thought one decision could unravel an entire life. But that's exactly what happened the night I chose another man over my husband. For years, my marriage had felt like a quiet room with no windows. My husband, Daniel, was kind, dependable, and steady, but somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. Conversations turned into schedules. Touch became accidental. We lived side by side, not together. I told myself this was normal, that love simply aged into silence. Then I met Ryan. Ryan didn't do anything extraordinary. He listened. He laughed at my jokes. He looked at me like I was still someone worth noticing. When he asked how my day was, he waited for the answer. Those small things felt huge after years of emotional emptiness. I convinced myself I wasn't being selfish. I was just being honest about what I needed. At first, it was harmless. Coffee after work. Long messages late at night. I told myself it wasn't cheating because nothing physical had happened. But emotionally, I was already gone. Every time Daniel tried to talk to me, I felt irritated. Every flaw of his grew louder, while Ryan seemed perfect simply because he was new. The night everything changed came quietly. Daniel was away on a short business trip. Ryan invited me over, saying he just wanted to talk. I knew what that meant. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time, telling myself I still had a choice. I could say no. I could stay loyal. I could protect my marriage. Instead, I grabbed my keys. Crossing that line didn't feel dramatic. It felt strangely calm. I remember thinking, so this is it. No thunder, no guilt, just a sense of stepping into another life. I told myself I deserved happiness, that love shouldn't feel like loneliness. The regret didn't come that night. It came slowly, cruelly, in pieces. The next morning, Ryan was distant. Not cold, just different. The warmth I'd imagined didn't last past the excitement. He went back to his life easily, while mine suddenly felt heavy. I drove home with a knot in my chest, rehearsing lies I hoped I'd never need. Daniel came back the following day. He hugged me at the door, longer than usual. He told me he'd missed me. Something in his voice cracked me open. I saw him clearly for the first time in years, not as the man who disappointed me, but as the man who had chosen me every single day. That's when the guilt hit. I couldn't sleep. Every normal moment felt unbearable, making dinner together, watching TV, brushing my teeth beside him. I was living inside a lie, and it was poisoning everything. Ryan stopped texting as much. When he did, the messages felt shallow. The connection I'd risked everything for was already fading. One evening, Daniel surprised me with something small. Tickets to a concert I'd once mentioned loving. He said, I know we've been distant. I want to try again, if you do. His eyes were hopeful, vulnerable. I almost broke down right there. I wanted to confess. I opened my mouth and closed it again. Fear won. I told myself I'd spare him the pain, that I could carry this burden alone. But secrets don't stay quiet, they rot. Over time, my distance grew. Daniel noticed. He asked if I was unhappy, if he'd done something wrong. Watching him blame himself was worse than any punishment I could imagine. Meanwhile, Ryan faded completely, proving just how replaceable I'd been to him. One night, Daniel found the messages. He didn't yell. That was the worst part. He sat on the edge of the bed, phone in his hand, and asked one simple question. Why didn't you talk to me? I didn't have a good answer. I cried. I told the truth about feeling invisible, about choosing wrong, about the regret that followed me every day. I told him it was the biggest mistake of my life. Daniel listened in silence. Then he stood up and said, I loved you enough to fight for us. You chose someone else instead. His voice wasn't angry. It was broken. He moved out a week later. The house became unbearable. Every corner reminded me of the life I destroyed with one choice. Friends tried to comfort me, saying mistakes happen, that people fall out of love. But this wasn't just falling, it was walking away when someone was still holding your hand. I tried to reach out to Ryan once, desperate for something to justify the damage. He didn't respond. That silence was the final truth. Months passed. I went to therapy. I learned painful things about myself, how I avoided conflict, how I chased validation instead of connection, how I expected my husband to read needs I never voiced. Understanding came too late to save my marriage, but not too late to change me. The last time I saw Daniel was to sign the divorce papers. He looked different, calmer, stronger. He told me he hoped I'd find what I was looking for. I wanted to tell him he was what I was looking for all along. But regret doesn't rewind time. Now, when people talk about temptation or choosing happiness, I stay quiet because I know the truth no one wants to hear. Not every exciting choice leads to a better life. Sometimes the grass looks greener because you haven't watered your own. I picked another man over my husband, believing it would save me from loneliness. Instead, it taught me the hardest lesson of my life. Some regrets don't scream. They sit with you, silently, forever reminding you of what you lost when